Man, first of all, thank you for
Sure.
this. This is awesome.
Sure.
And just getting to converse with somebody else is inspiring, and like just like your knowledge, sharing that with me. I get really into how you can like leapfrog big steps when you get to hang out with somebody who's like already spent hours of their life on something, or days, years, and they can kind of like pull you up a little bit. I think that's magical.
For sure. Yeah, I like to do that any opportunity I can.
So you have your Guitar Tips Pro
Mm-hmm.
thing that you're doing, which is amazing.
Thanks.
And I'm curious, because something I think about a lot right now is that we're in the era where you can do everything yourself, and as a musician, and a lot of the restraints that used to exist,
Sure.
A lot of the constraints that used to exist don't anymore. But you could also change that sentence to like, you have to do everything yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And we're probably similar in that it's like being good at music doesn't necessarily make you good at web design or any of those things.
Yeah.
So I wonder, how did you arrive at doing something as elaborate as what you're doing now, and like what are the struggles in pulling that off?
Well, let's see. Well, as far as Guitar Tips Pro, I would say the struggles for doing that are probably threefold. One was just technically learning how to do this stuff. Like, it's funny you said about web design. There was a point many years ago when I was actually like learning like HTML and like writing code and like designing my own website from that, like not Squarespace or Wix or whatever, but actually like manually designing stuff. And I couldn't do that now to save my life, but there was a minute when I was really into that. As far as like creating Guitar Tips Pro, when I started, it was just, well, I was going to pick up my phone, but I don't have it handy. It was just, I put my phone on a music stand, and I was living in an apartment that had this big white wall and great light in the afternoon, and there was like a 2 or 3 hour window where if I did it in that time frame, it just looked like I was in a beautiful, well-lit studio, and the iPhone captured the audio well enough. Maybe I'd boosted a little bit in production in iMovie or whatever, but basically it just kind of did itself. When I decided to like ramp it up, like, okay, I need to get a light, I need to get a real camera, I need to record audio separately. There's a learning curve for all of that. You have a Tascam recorder, I use a Tascam recorder. I had to figure out like what setting actually makes sense for capturing what I'm doing, and also for the file size being, just all the, all the stuff I'm talking about. This might not be interesting to other people, but so a lot of the technical stuff was difficult for me because really, I'm not a big engineer or anything like that. A big project I did for myself 4 years ago was I decided I was going to record and mix my own record, which for a lot of people would be no big deal. For me, it was like a huge deal. It took me almost a whole year to like let it go and be happy with it. And the only thing that I hired somebody else to do was mastering, because that was like a whole other.
Which record was that?
Well, you've never heard it because it was a crowdfunded record.
Okay.
It's called Lower 48. It's not available anywhere. I made it only available to the people that supported it. But it was called Lower 48. And I listened to it again recently just by accident. I had my music on shuffle and a song came on and I thought, oh, what is that? I don't remember. It was like a song, because I don't perform those songs even. Like, it was like this whole bubble project. Like, I recorded it, I mixed it, I mastered it, I sent it to the people who supported it. And most of those songs on that record I forget about even, because I haven't played them live hardly at all. But But to your question, like, what are the challenges? So one is just technical. And in the same way that you said, like, there's the options are open, but we have to do everything. I forget exactly how you said.
You can do everything, but you have to do everything.
Right. So you can reframe it, and anything can be reframed that way. So like when I'm doing it, it's like, oh, I've got so much to learn. I've got to do this stuff. And that, like, but now it's great because I have some flow with it, and I've been able to help other people who've asked me about it, like, I want to do something like that. What is it? And then you realize when somebody asks you to explain it, maybe you realize that you know a little more than you thought you did. So that's one of the challenges. Another challenge is just staying inspired, because before I started Guitar Tips Pro, I had like a kind of a free guitar tips on YouTube. So I did that for more than 2 years, and then I've been doing Guitar Tips Pro for over a year. And I don't do like transcriptions. I'm not showing, oh, here's how to play this song, or I try to even have it not be super idiomatic. So we're just talking concepts. And after 200 or 300 concepts, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm not sure exactly what to talk about this week. So what keeps me inspired is really like real life conversations with students. Somebody will come in and say, God, I'm really frustrated by this thing, or I'm really inspired by this thing. And then that'll kind of, get some juice going in my brain. And I realize like, oh, maybe some other people are also thinking about this. And it makes, and that, if you just are in your own head all the time, I don't know that you have infinite ideas, but actually talk to people about what they're working on and what they're. So that's been so there are definitely weeks and months where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but something comes out of a real conversation.
Yeah.
And then it was just course promotion. Like how much do you want to be like, the Tony Robbins of like guitar, like how much do you want to have just like hard, that's kind of course I want people to know about it, but I also don't want to just have, I don't want to be pushing it all the time and, everywhere I go, like somehow wrangle the conversation towards Guitar Tips Pro.
Right.
I really want people to find it on their own, and if they like it, then they can get into it. But a business manager would be like, that's stupid. Like you need to like do some sponsored content, and you need to like do this and that, and have sales funnels and whatever. I'm like, that's so not what I want to do, but maybe ultimately what I need to do. I don't know. How do you think about that stuff?
I think it still feels funny to me to be 37 and say that I have a YouTube channel. Just sort of, I'm sure it's a, as someone who's 10 years younger than me would just be like, whatever, that's how it is. And even that is how people that are 10 or 20 years younger interact with social media. It kind of just is, and it's part of life, and you do that, and they seem to have a much more natural relationship to it. Probably like I was with video games, and my parents were like, how do you do that, right?
Right, sure.
One of the things that's been helpful for me, because I still am not sure that I know anything that someone else would find useful, like that kind of commentary is still part of my mental process. So I could talk myself out of sharing things, because I think, I won't speak for you, but I think people experience like a little bit of a fear of judgment. I'm going to put myself out there, and it may or may not be well received. And they discount what they already know and its value. So for me, part of flipping that, I got really into Seth Godin over the last couple of years, just like as ways to think about things. And he was talking about changing your perception from, I'm trying to sell you something, which is kind of like the bait and switch of like, I'm creating a problem that you didn't know that you have, and now I'm giving you the solution kind of thing, which feels very manipulative.
Right.
It's more that people do have things that they want to change inherently, and you're doing them a favor by offering the stuff that you know. And sort of they would want it if they could know about it. And you're actually not improving the world to get really big. You're not improving the world by holding anything back. So that was helpful for me because it sort of shifted the perspective from, hey, will you watch my video, or hey, will you buy my record, or I have this thing maybe you'd like. The stance changes because you're helping rather than selling. That's the best way that I've kind of marshaled my enthusiasm about it and kind of tamped down the like negative internal commentator.
Yeah, that's cool. I used to follow Seth Godin, and I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit, but I should go back to that. I know he's doing this alt MBA thing.
I did that.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Tell me.
This is super nerdy. I have you get an alt MBA challenge coin when you go through it.
Oh, wow. That's not nerdy. That's beautiful.
Yeah, right?
Holy cow, man.
Yeah. Which I carry it around in the event that I ever run into him so that I can say, I did this. Thank you.
You will. And you will. Wow. Well, the guy that I've been turning to, once again, he's somebody that I was into and lost and then started reading again, was Austin Kleon.
I don't know that. Yeah.
He has two books that I'm aware of, maybe more. One is called Steal Like an Artist.
Okay.
And the other is called, I think it's called Show Your Work.
Mm.
And I recently started teaching a songwriting class at USC. And that the first one, Steal Like an Artist, is actually part of the curriculum. Students are required to read it. So I kind of knew it, but I thought, I should brush up on it, because if you're going to stand in front of a classroom, you want to have some authority to like what the book actually says and not be like thumbing through it,
Yeah.
So I read it again, and I was like, oh yeah, it's really good for like that kind of stuff of like doubting, like, do I have something worth sharing? Am I, he has a really funny way of reframing like fake it till you make it. Because, we always think of like making it as success, so fake it till you make it. But he's like, yeah, but also make it.
Right.
Until you make it. So if you're not sure like how to focus your camera or how to light a thing or whatever, it's just like start doing it. Like you'll learn so much more by just start.
Yeah.
And as you go, like, get curious, talk to people who know more about it than you do, read books, Google stuff, whatever, like learn what you can. It doesn't mean just start and put the blinders on and see you at the finish line. It means, but whatever you're telling yourself that keeps you from actually starting to do it, that's the stuff you need to turn off.
Right.
And that book, Steal Like an Artist, is, I think, a super great read for anybody who's there.
Yeah.
Seth Godin, like I'm so amazed that you did that. That's great. I thought of it, I thought about it and I didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is getting more personal, but like I basically reached a point at the beginning of this year where I was like so frustrated with my personal status quo of like the way that I operated, and like I'm very laid back, but that also is sort of a cover for like I have experienced a lot of inertia, like just if I stop moving, I'm like a boulder that's hard to get going again. So
Sure.
It's like I started to think about strategies for counteracting that. It's like a natural thing. What am I going to do that's unnatural in my life that's going to push me, So I did a few things. It's funny you mentioned Tony Robbins, because I went to a Tony Robbins event.
Wow.
Which was outlandish. It was I would wholeheartedly endorse it. I walked on burning hot coals.
You really did?
I did do that, yes.
Wow.
So and at the same pretty much like the same day that I booked myself to do that, I applied for the Alt MBA because I was in sort of a manic fit of just like I can't put up with myself and I'm gonna like go for it. So it was it's funny that you say that. It was more adrenaline than anything else that pushed me into adrenaline and frustration that pushed me into like I got to do these things, which was ultimately really good for me because once you book something, you're kind of obligated to show up for it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the bigger struggles for me, anyways. So
yeah. Well, okay, that's
a lot of information.
No,
right there.
man, that's
Yeah.
great. A big light bulb just went off for me in hearing you talk about that. Like, the thing that turns me off about the thing that keeps me from going to a Tony Robbins seminar or who's the other guy? I actually read his book, Harmonic Wealth. I can't think of his name. He's another hot coals guy and sweat lodge guy. But is that okay? The thing that turns me off is not that I don't believe in it. I think that those kind of workshops can have really positive, powerful results. But I've been thinking like, well, if I go and drink that Kool-Aid or whatever, that's going to change my presenting style. And like people are always commenting on my videos that I'm like the Bob Ross of guitar or something. And I don't want to like one day like, people tune into my channel and I've got a headset mic and I'm looking straight into the camera and I'm like,
Right.
or like Tom Cruise in Magnolia. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I don't want to change my presenting style.
Yeah.
But I think you can still have that as what you do, and this comes back to where you started it, but like, well, we can do it ourselves and we must do it ourselves. Like, I don't know anybody who does what you or I do that has a business manager anymore. But 10 or 20 years ago, it wasn't uncommon. If you were making real money in the music business, you have a business manager because you need somebody who can deal with all that stuff.
Yeah.
So now, like, okay, if you had a business manager, you'd want them to be a super badass. If you don't have a business manager, you need that part of yourself to be super badass, even if you want your videos to be laid back. Like, your videos are laid back.
Right.
I can't picture you either with like a headset mic or like talking straight into the camera, like,
breaking stuff with a baseball bat,
Yeah, like, but that wasn't the light bulb that just went off for me. And hearing you talk about it is like, it doesn't have to change your product at all. Like, your product can your what you share with the world and can be exactly the same, but there can be other ways of figuring out how to. These words are just so charged. Like, your product, other ways to leverage it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I don't know why that makes me hem and haw.
No, it's hard to. I mean, I think identifying more as an artist, it's hard to talk about what you do in terms of product or to use marketing or sort of salesy language about it. I relate to that. I think that one of the keys is that the things that you're already good at don't need more strengthening. It's the things that you are not good at. Like you're saying, like, you're good at Adam Levy and the presenting and the teaching and the guitar tips and the Bob Ross of the guitar thing. Like, that's natural. And that's a beautiful analogy too, because I love Bob Ross. But there's other things, I'm sure, that it's like, I got to figure out how to, you're already a badass in that respect. And you need to figure out how to manifest more badassery in other places that you don't feel confident about, or that you, I don't know, everything back to like someone made you feel not good at that when you were 6. And so you've carried that forward as an adult, and it's like, it's something that you need to learn to shift your perspective on yourself in.
Mm.
But that stuff rarely happens by accident, you know. So I think you're totally right. It doesn't have to be a complete personality change.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But having a teacher, or like we were talking about earlier, having a coach for something, like these are people who already know, they're already where you want to be, and you can learn a lot and go a lot faster by mimicking what they do. So that stuff is powerful.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
How did you flip this around on me? No, you're the interviewer. It's like jujitsu.
Yeah, it's like jujitsu. Right. So I'm going to throw this back at you. Like, if somebody, I don't know if you've ever talked about Seth Godin before in any of your videos.
Not in something like this, yeah.
Okay. If somebody's like, who's that guy? Where would you start?
Will you type Seth into Google search, and he is the first one that comes up?
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of dope. And he has a great podcast called Akimbo, which he likes to say there's no interviews and he's the only person on it. But, you know, it's like these, he'll kind of break down one of his ideas in a 15 or 20 minute episode. And if you don't know who Seth Godin is, he is the guy who has an answer for every question, and it's not the answer that you thought it was going to be. It's super crazy. But on the surface, a lot of it's about marketing and about selling things, but the reality is it's really about work and connecting and giving to a group of people. And creating a relationship there. So, like I've found it incredibly useful. But yeah, podcast, Akimbo. He's got one of the longest running, most popular blogs where he posts every day. And those are two good places to start. And then he's got a number of books. And if you get on YouTube, there's hours of talks of him answering questions and stuff like that. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah. And he'll lead you, I'd heard of Steal Like an Artist from him. He'll lead you to a bunch of other places too, because he's not shy about saying, like pointing to people and saying, this is good.
Yeah. It's really funny to me now. I mean, you talk about how this time is like all the stuff that's going on now. We're like figuring all this stuff out, and we're in it, and we're maybe more hyper aware of it than we were hyper aware of ourselves 20 years ago. Because of the nature of the internet and everything is shared all the time. But, you know, when I was teaching at National Summer Guitar Workshop in the, you know, mid and late 90s, to me, it was a summer job. You know, nobody was hiring me to go out on tour, you know, to tour with their band. I was looking to get out of LA, or when I lived in New York, get out of New York, and just like talk about guitar and hang out and kind of like unplug from the like intense nitty gritty of whatever, and just like hang out with a bunch of people that are interested in guitar and get paid. It was a summer job. It was cool. And you know, there'd be guests, you know, Jim Hall came. I got to play a song with Jim Hall.
I think I was there for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was that the thing where, not to interrupt, but he did a thing where he completely detuned every string in his guitar to some odd pitch and then improvised?
Oh, wow. I don't remember that, but
sorry,
that
it just came
sounds
to my
like
mind.
something he would do.
Sorry, go ahead. I just
No, and
flashback.
you know, Schofield came, and so it was like, you know, you get to hang out with some of those guys and get to hang out with really bright young people who are just loving the guitar. But I never thought that 20 or 30 years later that it would be something, well, 20 years later, that it would be a thing that I'd be thinking about that much. But so many of the people that were teenagers there then are like yourself, you know, guys, you know, in their mid-30s now who are really doing the thing. And it's really cool to see, you know, first of all, like to see young people become real people who are really doing the thing.
Right.
but just also like it's a community. You know, we don't have challenge coins. We don't have National Guitar Summer Workshop.
We should.
You know, maybe you'd have like Zach Wild's guitar pick would be a challenge coin or something. But you know, Rich Hinman, who I play with all the time, he was a student there when I met him, and we've just over the years been playing a lot of music, and now we're in a band together. And he's one of my best friends. Brian Green is out here, who was a National Guitar Summer Workshop guy. He's doing all kinds of great stuff on the guitar. People might know him. He's done recently a bunch of videos with Pomplamoose. If you see a guitar player with kind of short, wavy, dark hair, it's probably Brian Green. But he's done a bunch of touring and stuff. Reeve Carney was, you know, Reeve and Zane were kids that were there. I mean, it's just kind of like amazing, like this little tiny subculture of a subculture. Right now, all those seeds are just in full bloom. It's really cool. Yeah. If you were a teenager 20 years ago, you're like on fire right now. Like
I remember being like, you know, an awkward kid and going to that and just being like, it's like I felt like I just landed on my planet, you know.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is where I'm from.
Yes. yes. Yes.
And the, you know, the ripple effect of that is profound. Because I could have gone my whole life without feeling that, you know, but even a little bit of that was enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then you go back home and you don't necessarily stay in touch with those people, but just to connect for a little bit with your tribe is a super big deal. It's really powerful. I still love it. I mean, when I think about like Guitar Tips and Guitar Tips Pro, like that's some part of it that I really want to do. As it exists now, it's only an internet community, and occasionally somebody will come up to me and go like, "Oh, hey man, I love your videos," or whatever, and like I love that. But someday, and I don't know what stops me. Maybe I need to like kick my own ass into doing this, but I would love to have a camp. It may not be a whole summer long, but even if I did like 1 week every summer, and you know, have a gathering of the guitar tribes. That's really what it's about for me. Like sitting in this room and talking into a camera is fine. I'm glad to do it. But being in a room with like real people who really want to be there, who like come from all over to just like spend that week to really talk about music and get into it. I've been doing some smaller scale versions of that, just like 1-day workshops with Joe Gore. Do you know Joe?
I know who he is. Yeah.
So we've done 2 now. We call it True Git. We needed to have a name, so it's called True Git. And it's only a 1-day version of that. You know, we did one in San Francisco and we did one in LA. We're going to do one in Austin in November. And I love it. So I have to figure out a way to do that. That feeling that you're talking about still like kind of glows in my heart.
Please do that.
Okay.
I'll show up for it.
Okay, cool. Cool.
That's awesome. Man, thank you so much for this time. And that was a delightful conversation, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.